My father told me my older sister was dead. She opened the door and looked exactly like him. I was 17 when I found the photographs. My dad kept things in a locked filing cabinet in his study, documents, warranties, the kind of administrative life paper that accumulates in drawers. I wasn't looking for anything specific. The key was in his desk and I needed the birth certificate for my passport application, and he wasn't home. I found the birth certificate in the second folder. I also found, behind it, a manila envelope with a name written on the outside in my father's handwriting. Kora. Settled. Inside were documents from a family court, a daughter from a relationship before my mother, arrangements for contact that had apparently been agreed and then quietly abandoned, a last known address from 8 years ago. I put everything back exactly as I found it. Got my passport. Said nothing. For 2 years I said nothing. I told myself it wasn't my business, that there was probably an explanation, that my father was a good man and good men sometimes had complicated histories that deserved privacy. Then I turned 19 and understood that I'd been lying to myself, and drove 4 hours to the last known address. She'd moved. The woman at that address gave me a forwarding address without much question, which either meant she trusted strangers or she'd been waiting for someone to come looking. The forwarding address led to an apartment building with a buzzer panel, and I stood outside it for 20 minutes before I pressed anything. She answered the door still holding a dish towel. She was 26, and she had my father's mouth and my father's way of standing very still when something surprised her. I watched her look at my face and understand immediately. I said I was Delia. I said I thought I was her sister. She let me in without a word. We sat at her kitchen table and I told her what I'd found. She listened, with her hands flat on the surface, completely still. When I finished, she stood up and went to her bedroom and came back with a box, and what she took out of it changed the temperature of the room. Letters. All of them addressed to our father's house. All of them sent back. All of them marked not known at this address in handwriting I recognized from birthday cards he'd signed my whole life. The mark. She'd been writing to him since she was 14. He'd been returning them for 12 years. I asked her what he'd told her. She said nothing. He'd told her nothing because he'd never spoken to her at all after she turned 10. He'd just stopped. Changed the number. Moved once without forwarding anything. She said she used to think she'd done something wrong, that she'd spent years trying to identify what it was. I told her I'd been told she died in a car accident when I was 5. She looked at me for a long time. Then she said she'd like to call him. I said I thought that was a good idea. I said I'd like to be there when she did. He picked up on the second ring. I could hear him smiling through the phone, the particular warmth he used with people he was happy to hear from. She told him where she was. The warmth stopped. He said she should leave. That I was troubled. That he'd protected his family from me for a reason, and she was undoing years of careful management by coming here. Kora looked at me across the table and kept her voice completely level. She asked him when he decided to tell his second daughter that his first one was dead. Silence. Then he said that was a necessary decision made in difficult circumstances, and she wouldn't understand the full picture. She said she'd like him to explain the full picture. He said some people aren't equipped for the truth, that Kora had always been unstable, like her mother, and that protecting a child from that kind of influence wasn't something he needed to justify. He said he'd given everyone a clean start, and he wasn't going to apologize for that. I asked him what I'd been given. He said my name like it surprised him, like he'd forgotten I was there. Then he said I'd been given the opportunity to grow up without confusion, which was more than most children from complicated situations got, and that I should be mature enough to appreciate it. Kora reached across the table and covered my hand with hers. I told him I'd like him to stop calling me his daughter in public, in the holiday cards, in the stories he told people at work about his family. I wanted his name off that part of my life. He said I was being dramatic. I said I was being accurate, and hung up. Kora and I sat there for a while without talking. At some point she made tea, and at some point I started crying, and she didn't make it strange. She just slid the box of tissues across the table and said she'd had a lot of practice with this particular kind of grief. She's the only person I know who learned to grieve someone still living. She taught me how. Our father sent one email 3 weeks later asking if we'd both calmed down. We didn't respond. We've never responded. We don't need to. We already have each other's numbers.